Bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host. Anger is healthy, I think. I think anger is like fire. It burns out all the dross and all the stuff, and I think it's wise to show it, to be opposed to injustice at all times for anybody. I think that's wise. I think I know that as soon as I feel myself insulted, the person who has insulted me is the second to know. As soon as I know, I say, hey, stop. Just a minute. Come here. I beg your pardon. You won't do that to me. That is your affair. Don't put that poison on me. I will not have it. So that's much healthier. And fortunately, it is creative. And that thing which is creative has a productive result.
Hello, and welcome back to this pit stop in my mind. My name is Cleopatra. If you are new here, welcome. If you are not new here, welcome back to my channel. I am celebrating because this is my first time being able to do a real YouTuber intro. So I am back to you in a new location. I have just a quick few life updates. I'm not going to make this intro super long. I have had a lot of life changes recently, one being the growth of my YouTube channel. I just want to say thank you to all my new subscribers and everyone who is new and joining me on this YouTube journey. I don't want to, harp about the growth of my channel too much, but I do really want to communicate that I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. And from January to now, it's May, I've literally gained like 8,000 subscribers. So I think that's really cool, and I don't take that lightly. And so I just want to say thank you. And yeah, I hope you stick with me on this journey here. But yeah, today I wanted to talk about female rage, but I didn't really want to talk about it in the same way that everybody else has. And no shade, no tea, I enjoyed the videos, but people were talking about the spectacle of female rage, and a lot of the videos before mine have kind of approached female rage in a way of like, just what is it and what do we make of women being angry in this like time? Women are being challenged politically in this time. Women's, basic rights and reproductive rights are being threatened. And if you're a woman of color or a woman with any other marginalizations of like queerness, or if you're a trans woman, that pressure, that political and social pressure increases. So I'm saying all this to say that it's really hard being a woman right now. And I think it's kind of crazy that in society, we have taught women that you are not allowed to be angry. And if you are, there is a specific way and code of conduct you must express your anger. And I think that's especially true for Black women. This video is going to be centered around Black women, and obviously through the lens of myself as a Black woman. I'm not trying to be like present myself as a super intellectual here. I am just a girl who has thoughts about things. I'm in my mid-20s and I'm navigating adulthood in a way that I didn't navigate it when I was 19 or even when I was 20. And I think that a lot of people who are in the same age group as me, and maybe even older, we're in a position that we're realizing we need to mature and we need to have a more in touch, a more grounded, a more present relationship with ourselves, with our emotions, and especially with our anger. I've been thinking a lot about how my holistic side, my spiritual side, my woo-woo side does not exist separately from my political side, or like my side that's invested in politics, invested in the well-being of Black women especially. There's a way that I've been learning or trying to do better at blending those aspects of myself, and for a while I've been struggling to figure out how I'm going to do that on YouTube without miscommunicating myself or without misrepresenting myself as a conservative. But I hope that it's clear as my videos continue and as I move forward that also when I'm talking about femininity, I am not talking about it through the lens of a conservative. I'm not a conservative, and I don't even really fully subscribe to gender binaries. I just wanted to, make clear what my intentions were for the video, and I hope that you enjoy this semi-casual conversation about anger and about how we can reclaim our anger and use it for ourselves and not let other people take our anger and use it for their own corporate greed and benefit. I am gonna probably just go into starting out with some definitions just so you and I were on the same page. Female rage is defined as a complex topic that can refer to women expressing anger, a cultural phenomenon, or a response to oppression. Everyone gets mad, sure, but I think women in particular have a very specific way that we get angry because we have so much to be angry about, especially right now. I think we're in an interesting place as women and as modern women in society. We have made a lot of progress socially in the sense that, we can have bank accounts, we can have things and express ourselves in a way that our ancestors could never have, or our ancestors might not have been allowed to out of fear for their lives. And that's especially true if you are a woman of color, a Black woman, a disabled woman, etc. A couple of months ago, I came across an Open Cultural Studies research article from 2018, and they put me onto the concept of triple consciousness. Now, I had heard of double consciousness, but if you're not familiar with double consciousness, W.E.B. Du Bois's theory is from his 1903 book, The Souls of Black Folks, and he used double consciousness to describe the experience of having multiple selves, a dual identity, or existing in two realities, really, in a nation like America. So at the time, he was using it to describe the reality of being Black in America in 1903, coming up with the term of double consciousness to describe the reality of being Black in America and existing under the two identities or two selves, a Black person and an American. It's a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on amused contempt and pity. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. Triple consciousness basically takes that a step further for Black women and states that Black women experience three consciousnesses. Black women experience three realities, basically, in America: being Black, being a Black person, being a woman, and being an American. For the sake of this video, I saw that a lot of other people have come up with their own different variations and twists on double consciousness to fit their realities. I do think that's a good way or a framing to look at how we as women and as Black women experience the world, and having to kind of exist under this reality of knowing that there's a separate set of rules that applies to you as a woman. There's unspoken rules that you have to follow if you want to exist peacefully in society. But I think that because of this, women struggle in a very unique way with handling our rage. Let the government have it their way, and the girls get no health care, no freedom, no abortion rights, no nothing. You can't get nothing from the government. Leave it to them. In a world where, even in the West, where we have perceived more freedoms or protected freedoms, women's basic and human rights are being threatened to be stripped every day. I've seen a lot of Black women online talk about veering away from expressions of anger and rage, or kind of leaning away from advocating for yourself, especially in the workplace or especially in spaces where you probably should be advocating for yourself. And to gaslight them, women of all races, besides just Black women, get flattened or reduced down to their emotions as a means to undermine them, and most of the time derail from whatever their problem is, whatever's got them fired up in the first place. Immediately what comes to mind for me, beyond the angry Black woman, is the spicy Latina, the hysterical white woman, or even the crazy Asian stereotype. And Angel Mason does a really good video on the sassy Black woman trope, which is basically the angry Black woman trope. And they go into a lot of great detail about how the angry Black woman trope derives from the sapphire stereotype. So if that's something that interests you, I would definitely go and check that out and give that a listen, or give that a watch. I do think this messaging is a scare tactic that's used to keep women from fully expressing themselves and speaking up when things don't go well for them. As I've been using my voice as a means of making this channel, I've been thinking about how important it is to speak up and advocate for yourself. And I've been put in so many positions in the last couple of weeks where I have had to advocate for myself, and I've had to do it knowing full well that I may risk being labeled an angry Black woman, and that might have some real consequences to me.
I'm here to remind you that stress and anger is the leading cause of autoimmune diseases in Black women. It was a lot to say, but I'm here to tell you that you need to take a break. If you can't fix it, let it go. And if you're angry about it, deal with it.
Okay. At the end of 2024, I had a laparoscopic myomectomy. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a surgery to remove fibroid tumors. Fibroid tumors are something that I had struggled with for a long time. And one of the only direct links that I have been able to make to it, or that my doctors have been able to make to it, is stress. And I know that I specifically have had a very difficult journey with holding on to my anger and swallowing a lot of like repressed trauma and emotions. And I think that that's a practice that is common for a lot of women, and I think that a lot of us end up facing in dealing with unnecessary health issues like IBS, like other chronic illnesses like migraines, anxiety, depression, being worsened if you already have it, so many reproductive issues. I think it's not a coincidence that Black women and women of color, being women under greater amounts of stress, we would be harboring and internalizing these feelings if we're not expressing them. We don't express those things, and so we suffer from these medical ailments at a higher rate. What would happen if we allowed ourselves to be angry? First and foremost, it's a process. When I first got into the practice of advocating for myself, I didn't always do it at the right times, or if at all. And that was something that was very hard for me, and something where I felt very disappointed when I did want to advocate for myself, but I just didn't have the tools necessary. Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way says, "Anger is our friend, not a nice friend, not a gentle friend, but a very, very loyal friend. It will always tell us when we have betrayed ourselves. It will always tell us it is time to act on our own best interests. Anger is not the activation itself, it is action's invitation." She also goes on to say, "Anger is meant to be respected." Why? Because anger is a map. Anger shows us what our boundaries are. Anger shows us where we want to go. It lets us see where we've been and lets us know when we haven't liked it. Anger points the way, not just the finger. In the recovery of a blocked artist, anger is a sign of health. I have been journaling every morning and doing some sort of mindful practice on a regular basis, and The Artist's Way has been a tremendous, tremendous part of my everyday process and a part of grounding myself recently. And I thought that it was so radical and so transformative and so delightful to read how she talked about anger, because I am someone who has always felt dread about the angry label and stereotype, because I have always been very passionate about the things that I care about. Since I was a teenager, I've been pretty vocal about the things that I think I deserve, the things that I think people deserve, that sort of thing. And often I worry that I am being misunderstood, misrepresented, or that my anger is being made into something that it shouldn't be. But I love how she talked about anger as a catalyst and as something that sparks and initiates change. When I started thinking about anger that way, my whole entire approach changed when it came to how I embrace myself in times of anger. But I have to recognize that anger is an energy that needs to be cultivated and molded. That's one of the biggest solutions to having this frozen, stagnant energy. I know that a lot of people don't like the idea and concepts of like energy, and it feels kind of woo-woo to them, but that is a part of my holistic approach, is viewing anger like an energy that has to create movement. And that isn't just like something that comes off the top of my head. That is a part of somatic healing, like releasing that energy that you're storing in your body. Dancing, screaming, crying. I have been allowing myself to sink back into the primal aspects of my feelings, because I think that there's no appropriate time or good time in your life to hold space for yourself. I try to approach anger with the same amount of grace and with the same amount of understanding and compassion that I would if I was feeling sad at that moment. What's been really, really helpful for me to kind of get back in touch with my anger so that I can use it as a creative tool and as a catalyst for a change even, is addressing my pain or my anger or my rage through movement. Another thing that has been helping me is honestly turning my rage and my anger into creativity. I think more of the girlies should be getting creative. Get mad and get creative. Get creative because you are mad. Anger has the potential to forge so many new relationships that you could establish with yourself, with activities, with hobbies, even with friends. Far too often we run away from our emotions in a way that makes the emotion much bigger and much more destructive than we might have intended it originally be. So sometimes that presence and that awareness is what takes us through. But yeah, I really, really love the concept of viewing anger as our friend. So the last thing that I want to say about rage and the suppression of our rage, as women, we like to think that we're not angry people or there's not a lot that we get angry about. But I do think that as a culture, we have learned to suppress not only our anger, but ourselves as a whole, even restricting how we show up in the world as a means to make other people comfortable. I talk a little bit about this in my video, Being Humble is a Scam, but I really do believe this is true and it weaves its way into everything. Yeah, I think that as much as we suppress our anger and as much as we suppress our rage, I don't think that rage is not going anywhere. I think that there's a lot of other people like billionaires, CEOs and politicians who do take women's anger, specifically Black women's anger, and use it for their own benefit. They use it to push campaigns. They use the rage of women to advance their own agendas. And I think that it's time for women to take our anger back and start using it for ourselves and for healing ourselves and for healing society. So I hope through watching this video, you feel inspired to have a more creative relationship with your rage. And I would also like to turn my rage into a new creative endeavor. So I want to pick up another creative skill or maybe put it into my passion for video making. I hope that maybe I've given you some directions to go into. And if you're still feeling a little like, what do I do with all these feelings and emotions, I want to share 2 book recommendations that kind of really, really evoke my feminine rage and get me to a place where I feel mobilized. And one of those books is, do I have it up here on my shelf? Yes. I have one of those books is something that I actually think I'm going to reread, which is Asada Shakur's autobiography. It's very much, if that is not going to put you in the energy of feminine resistance, I don't know what will. Another book that I am rereading this year that is kind of on that par of, feminine rage for the intellectual girlies. If you enjoyed this video or if this video made you have any interesting thoughts, I would love to hear them in the comments. Oh, I forgot to say what I'm drinking today. Today I am drinking what I consider this a tea. It's a lemon ginger probiotic sparkling beverage from Trader Joe's. I always gotta have something that I'm drinking on when I'm making these videos because I am a yapper. Here's to expressing our rage and advocating for ourselves and embodying the strong, beautiful, capable women that we know we can be. Yeah, I'm gonna stop running my mouth and I'm gonna get to editing this video so I can break my 2-month-long hiatus. Thank you again so much for 10,000 subscribers. I'm just gonna go ahead and claim it. I'm at 9.6 right now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Clink.